Immigration. What do you know about it? I personally am an immigrant, so I have a very personal experience with this said concept. Even if where I live it's a common life story, very few people have looked in depth to the psychological impacts that immigration has on people. From having to split cultures to having to grieve your home country to changing the way that you perceive your own identity. There's a lot to unpack. So I decided to invite a few of my acquaintances who happen to be also immigrants and talked about their own immigration stories. For meeting our guests, there's a few facts that you need to know. There will be three different groups from the people that I will interview. First, the first generations of immigrants, the second generation, and third generation. Depending on which generation they belong to, their answers and experiences will be very different from one another. And even if you're in the same generation, your answer can also be very different. Migration has always existed, and I would even dare to say that it's our natural way of living, since before acquiring the agricultural skills, we were, for most of us, nomads, right? But even after humankind found a way to be stable and just stay in one place, for some of us, it wasn't the only option. Europeans started discovering and colonizing foreign lands and settling down. From there, the industrialization as well as the globalization made it more common to migrate from one place to another. The main causes of migration are due to political, economical, social, and cultural reasons. It can also be due to natural disasters, persecution, violation of human rights, or war. And of course, the reasons are deeply intertwined one with another. Aside from the personal reason, the host country can also be advantaged by the arrival of new migrants. For example, here in Canada, we have this little tiny problem, and it's the fact that we have an aging population. So the fact that we can bring new, young immigrants increases the chances to have a younger generation in the future, which in the long term benefits economically as well as demographically this country. But without further ado, let's meet our guest.
Hello, my name is Ryan, and I'm 20 years old.
Mi nombre es Elfielda y tengo 48 años.
Hello, my name is Ella and I'm 18.
So, my name is Christine and I am 19 years old.
Je m'appelle Jason Anastas et j'ai 20 ans.
Hi, my name is Maria. I'm 19 years old and I am a third generation immigrant.
Je m'appelle Aurélie Jacqueline Martinez Moreno et j'ai 19 ans.
So both my grandparents on my dad's side and my mom's side immigrated, and then they both immigrated around in the 1950s from different regions. I am a third generation.
Mi familia emigró en el año 2007.
My family immigrated here in 2000.
I think in the early 90s.
J'ai émigré en 2017, en avril 2017, de Paris.
My maternal grandparents were both born in Italy and immigrated to the United States during the time of World War II.
On a émigré en 2007. Moi, à ce moment-là, j'avais 6 ans.
Well, basically, my parents lived through the Khmer Rouge, well, like the Pol Pot thing. I don't know what's the word in English, but yeah, they had to run away from Cambodia, and then they had to refuge in Vietnam, and then eventually they had to run away to Canada.
They fled Italy due to the horrible standards of living that made Italy no longer a livable place due to the rise of fascism.
My dad's mom was born in Palermo, Sicily. It was during the war and their house got bombed. So they moved to, they decided to move to New York. So they took a boat and they went to Ellis Island, and then they immigrated there and they lived in New York for a little bit, and then they moved to Montreal. On my mom's side, they met in Egypt and they got married in Egypt, and then a year later they moved to Montreal.
J'ai voyagé 3 fois avant d'arriver au Canada. Donc, on a allé 3 fois en vacances au Canada, avec ma mère et ma sœur. Et ensuite, on a émigré ici, en 2017.
My father came here in 1997 with my uncle, just to scout the country. He came here with my uncle. He started looking for jobs, for potential houses. He went back to Morocco, and they decided to immigrate here in 2000. And I was born a year later in 2001.
Los papeles fue una iniciativa de mi esposo. En ese momento él tenía intenciones de venir a hacer un programa de especialización o maestría en su área laboral. Al cabo de 3 años este proceso dio frutos y obtuvimos todos los papeles para poder entrar a Canadá. Viajamos en el 2007 y bueno, así comenzó nuestra historia de inmigración.
Mon père a perdu son emploi. Fait que après ça, il fallait qu'ils cherchent d'autres alternatives. Puis en même temps, à un moment donné, ils ont vu une annonce sur le journal comme quoi il y avait des personnes qui t'aidaient à faire tes papiers si tu voulais immigrer au Canada ou aux États-Unis. Puis ça a comme tombé comme pile au bon moment pour mes parents qui cherchaient une autre alternative. Du coup, ils ont commencé à faire tout le processus et tout, ça s'est bien donné, puis finalement on a immigré.
Tout de suite, parce que j'étais assez grand pour réaliser que j'étais pas dans mon pays de naissance.
Desde el momento en que pisé el aeropuerto de Toronto, el mismo día llegando a Montreal, también vivimos la experiencia de sentirnos sacados de nuestro ámbito normal.
I don't really see myself as an immigrant.
Because I am a third-generation immigrant, it is harder for me to identify as an immigrant compared to my grandfather, who is a first-generation immigrant.
I guess I never realized it. I was always aware that I was always proud of it. I was like, oh, like I'm half Italian and I'm half Egyptian. Like I always thought that was really cool.
In high school,
J'ai réalisé ça plus au secondaire.
it was really in high school that I realized I was an immigrant because I went to elementary school in this same
Le
neighborhood.
premier quartier où on habitait à Montréal, c'était un quartier assez multiculturel, puis il y avait beaucoup d'immigrants.
Being poor was normal, I guess. I didn't know I was poor. But then going into high school and seeing how I was treated differently because I had different interests, I didn't really speak the Québécois slang and all.
Que c'est là que j'ai vraiment commencé à sentir la différence.
And everyone in my high school was white. That's when I realized, like, oh wait, like this is kind of weird. I don't feel like I really belong here.
C'est comme ça, c'est les personnes qui ça fait déjà longtemps qu'ils sont ici, puis ça, c'est les immigrants.
But for sure, when you go through puberty, it is hard fitting in because of the culture you have.
Parce que de tes parents, surtout, mais quand eux, ils ont immigré, eux, ils amènent leur bagage de leur pays.
Well, you have to grow up with the culture in the place where you're born in, because I'm born in Canada.
En tant qu'enfant d'immigrants, parce que ça revient à nous de trancher où qu'est-ce qu'on va prendre du bagage de nos parents, puis qu'est-ce qu'on prend d'ici.
Putting both things at once while trying to please my parents, but also fit in with people of my age and make sure that I'm not excluded from their group.
Déjà, la culture, elle est différente, la façon de manger, le rang social, il est différent aussi. Et la façon dont les gens se comportent, c'est différent.
Maybe like discrimination because I am the son of an immigrant, so I may not look like someone who was born here.
I think it's mostly identity because I have trouble being like where.
It's like
I kind of feel it's a bit of like imposter syndrome because I'm from here but I'm not actually from here.
Because I feel like I will never truly be Québécoise. I identify with both, but they both also like go against each other.
Tantas personas de diferentes países que en algún momento no sabes cómo adaptarte a esas diferentes formas o a esas diferentes culturas para no utilizar palabras que pudiesen ofender o saber o poderte defender en ese aspecto.
Definitely be the language barrier. I sadly only know how to speak very little Italian, due to the fact that I was raised speaking English. And so, because I don't know how to speak Italian, it's very hard for me to have conversations with my grandfather because he only really speaks Italian, whereas I don't.
Era un punto de llegar a ser mamá, profesora, psicóloga, ocuparse de la casa y también ser estudiante.
I would say that it made me maybe more open-minded because I know what it's like to immigrate to a country, because not personally but like through my parents and through the people that I know.
You feel more open-minded.
Yeah, I think it's also cool because I have like this extra like cultural diversity and stuff like that. Like I just know more about both, I get to experience more.
I think it has changed me as an individual in some way because it has kept me humble. When I think of all the efforts and the hard work my grandparents have made, it's kept me really grounded.
Mais ici, j'ai plus développé mon sens adulte parce que j'ai eu mon premier travail, j'ai eu mes premiers vrais amis, j'ai commencé à avoir mon propre argent, donc j'ai pu faire mes propres sorties, je suis devenu autonome.
Je remarque à quel point j'ai pas la même mentalité, puis j'ai pas eu la même éducation que tout le monde.
Of course, I'm happy that my parents decided to immigrate, and especially here to Canada.
Oui, je suis contente. Je suis chanceuse.
I am happy. I think it was a good decision. It's a very scary decision
Simply knowing that I'm living their dream makes me incredibly proud that I'm a third generation, and I'm so thankful for the courage and the bravery that it took for my grandparents to flee Italy amidst all the stress and anxiety they must have felt.
For sure, it was for their own good. They couldn't just stay in Cambodia and die, you know, it's obviously an instinct to survive. I do have to say yes.
Oui, je suis vraiment content. Genre, je regrette pas d'avoir vécu en France parce que ça fait partie de mon passé, mais le Canada, c'est vraiment beaucoup d'opportunités. Du coup, ça m'a vraiment aidé à me développer en tant que personne.
Mais honnêtement, oui. Surtout maintenant que je suis plus grande et que je réalise tous les avantages que ça nous donne.
Truly don't forget your mother's tongue.
Try to learn the Canadian culture.
Rêver, n'arrêtez pas de rêver. Laisse-toi t'accueillir.
Be open to the culture, obviously, because you can learn a lot from it.
Donc, n'essaye pas d'imposer ta culture puis tes coutumes.
Keep practicing your culture no matter where you are. Even if you're in a new country, it doesn't mean to separate yourself from the culture in the new place you are in. For sure, you have to also take into account that culture. So great that you keep it with you and that you put it down to your kids and they practice it with their partners and everything, and just goes down so that you don't lose it to Quebec culture or like Canada culture or whatever.
Il ne faut pas non plus idéaliser ce pays parce que il y a aussi des pour et des contre.
Normalement, si tu veux immigrer, normalement, tu vas ça devrait bien se passer.
And for example, my grandfather, when they moved here, he changed his last name to Grégoire to make it sound more Quebecer-like, so that my mom wouldn't stand out when she was in when she was in school.
And yeah, we were going to Zukambi. My grandparents were speaking our dialect. And then there's just like this group of white people, Québécois. They started saying like ching chong and things like that. And I was just there like, okay, like, why are you saying that?
C'est la première fois que je suis allé à l'école. Donc on s'en va dans le 4, et du coup c'était mes premiers jours à l'école. Et en France, pour dire bonjour, on fait la bise aux gens, donc on fait 2 bisous. Sauf qu'ici on est plutôt en mode, on fait des probs, donc des checks à peu près. Et moi, vu que je connaissais pas que c'était comme ça, je suis allé pour faire la bise à mes amis. Et ils ont un peu reculé parce qu'ils pensaient pas qu'on disait bonjour comme ça dans les autres pays.
Ah oui, tu vois comment en hiver, quand il fait soleil et qu'il neige pas, c'est quand il fait le plus froid. Du coup, ma mère, à un moment donné, elle a fait le lavage des vêtements. Elle a vu qu'il faisait soleil dehors, elle était comme « Ah, il fait beau, alright, je vais sortir un moment les vêtements, peut-être que ça va aider. » Yo, les vêtements, ils se sont gelés.
Sorry for the pronunciation, but las chancletas